All right, let's get started with the next session for tonight. For us here at CoLab, it's important that I think people understand this is the first location. This is kind of our, we like to call this our community center phase in this neighborhood, in the community. And our overall kind of long-term vision for what we do here is to eventually develop this into an innovation community. And that requires other locations, other opportunities to demonstrate that innovation is already happening in this area. I think that's one of our opportunities, is to highlight those, some of the amazing neighbors that we have, some of the amazing places that people can meet and hang out and connect with other people. Our whole goal is to build intersections. So one of the things we wanted to be more intentional about is highlighting some of those things that are already happening. We don't want to, it's not like what we show up and we're going to, obviously things are going to start coming here. That's not the way this works. One of the reasons that this area was chosen was because there are amazing operations and amazing operators that are already here doing incredible things. When we first moved into this area, there was a new location that was opening up right down the street. I think it was already in existence. Walked by all the time and had no idea what was happening in there. And a while back when the news broke and I learned what was happening, it was kind of an eye-opening experience for me that we have to do a better job of identifying some of these incredible stories. And so tonight what we wanted to do was bring one of those incredible stories to the community. So you probably haven't seen any of these. I don't introduce guests. It's just, I'm always afraid I'm gonna mess it up, man. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
All right, so my name is Kortney. I am the guy who founded Community Groceries. And basically, Community Groceries is just a foundation right now. My goal is to leverage the technology. What does that mean? We'll explain later throughout our conversation. But I'm the owner and founder of this thing that we call Community Groceries.
So when I hear Community Groceries, it's just so misleading in terms of what you're doing. It really is. You know what I mean? I mean, like we talked about this a little bit, how you came up with the name. I think that's pretty good. So let's start a little bit with you, though, because I think it's important to understand a little bit your background. Kind of. So you're originally Kansas City native.
Yes, born and raised here in Kansas City. Well, technically born in Kansas City, raised out in the suburbs. I actually grew up out in Raymore, Missouri. Throughout my whole childhood, it was a beautiful experience being out there in the suburbs, but that was part of it, right? That was part of my journey. I ended up going to 6 different colleges undergraduate, or 5 different colleges undergraduate. That was a successful renaissance to me when it came to college. I actually graduated high school early and went to community college. And then once I left that community college, I went to Jeff City, Lincoln University. Then left there, then went to Central Missouri State, then left there, and then went to Missouri State, and then left Missouri State, went back to Columbia College, and then finally went to Columbia College too. And I ended up graduating with a history degree, which is ironic, right? Because most people are like, wait, a history degree, why do you have a history degree? Well,
right.
That's the first degree, the only degree that I was close to when I wanted to graduate, because you hop around colleges like that, it's the same price.
I have a very similar story. I got my degree because I went into the counselor and said, what's the thing I can get that gets me out of here the fastest, right?
Exactly, and that's sometimes what happens, right? You have to take those journeys.
But you're not a history teacher.
No, I'm not.
So, all right, you got your history degree to get out of school, but then, all right, what was next for you?
So when I was popping around during that time, I was just trying to find a job, doing a job. I didn't care what that job was, as long as it had job in the title.
Sure.
Or somewhere.
Or check on Fridays,
Yes.
Right, yeah.
And I ended up actually working for Motorola. This was a new experience, and I got to pilot the first Motorola Droid device. This is 6 months before the phone actually was released.
Yeah, I remember that phone.
Yeah, I had it.
Yeah.
I think that moment right there is what sparked my interest in technology, because I was very blessed with that opportunity, because there was only 30 of us in the country that were selected for that particular program. And this is us walking around with the phone and acting like it's ours.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. And so once I did that, job hopped from several organizations, contract a lot of contract work. One of the contractors I ended up staying one stable is Microsoft. But because of doing all that, right, you don't ever see, you don't ever get to a point where you actually see a paycheck because you're just running around all the time. And that's what I was doing. And so I decided to get more jobs, and I did social work. Actually started social work before I started Microsoft. I was a youth care associate, and I ended up keeping that job and the Microsoft job. And then I got a full-time job in IT. And so I worked 3 full-time jobs. And when I say IT, it was like customer support.
Sure.
And while I was in this support role was where I actually leveraged and learned a lot more about how the internet operated. Because at that time, going from a physical hardware device that looks at this thing and trying to figure out what it does, to actually figuring out how the internet works, then you're able to solve a lot of problems. I left those positions and ended up, ironically enough, as a software engineer, software testing engineer. And from there, I spent the greater of my career actually behind the scenes, behind the code. The man who was actually running the actual test to actually help users better understand users' behavior behind the applications that they were using. That was a great experience, a great opportunity, and I wouldn't be here if I didn't go through all those avenues. In the process, I had to learn some construction. I don't know why, but I did.
Right.
And so all of those little details that I learned, I used to actually build this store. Because most people, a lot of times, don't realize I physically actually built that store from the ground up. So, literally with all the fixtures that's inside of the place, all the way up to the way that the grid hangs the camera situation that we have down there. And so it was a lot of work.
Yeah, and so not a technologist out of college, kind of morphed into that role and kind of progressed through those steps to get to kind of being involved in software engineering and a lot of the work that led to this. But when I say that it's misleading, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way, but when you call it community grocery, it's not really a grocery store, is what you said to me, which I find that funny. But having been in there, having seen what you're doing, I understand, and I think you have to see it to understand what you mean by that. But this isn't just. I mean, not only is this not a grocery store, but even if it was a grocery store, it's not just a grocery store.
That is correct.
So let's talk a little bit about what separates it from, a bodega or a common grocery store today.
The technology that drives it. So I'm actually a technologist and a technology company. I lease, obviously, technology from third parties in order to achieve the goal. The goal that I'm trying to achieve utilizing this technology is to actually bring healthier food options. Because technology allows you to drive those, which drives down the price of the product. So when I say that this particular location is not a grocery store, literally, because it's our test site.
Yep.
It's a site that we actually get to experiment with all of the product, no matter what it is. If it's a PVC pipe, or if it's a receptacle, anything, right? As long as I'm able to recognize what that product looks like. The technology is agnostic of what it is. It doesn't have to be groceries, and it doesn't have to be anything specific. This allows us unique opportunity to work with vendors that are local product creators. If you have a base and you want to sell it in the retail space, well, you have retail space with us because you can't come in there and put that base on the shelf. We have a back-end system that will allow us to actually sell that product for you. And it enables us to do a lot of things. And this takes the Internet of Things and a whole bunch of other cool things and put it all into an ecosystem. And so yes, even though we say that this location is community groceries is just how we started. We started with groceries because groceries has the largest selection of products right there in its entirety. I have 75,000 item catalog between 4 distributors. There's a lot of product out there.
Right.
And when you think about what that product does and what it is, then you can leverage it. It gives us a lot more different product variation size, right? It's different from going to the Home Depot and getting a 2x4. Well, a 2x4 is not going to change no matter which location you go to,
right?
But a bar of soap,
right?
And anything of that nature.
Now the technology enables a unique user experience in that, and I think I was telling you this when we first met. I first ran into this experience. I think it was in an airport, and that experience is to be able to walk into a store, pick something off a shelf, and basically walk out and pay for it without ever having to interact with anybody.
That is correct.
And so, tell us a little bit about how that works.
So, oh yeah, we messed out on that part. That's the technology.
Right.
So the technology in itself is called Amazon Just Walk Out for one who's not familiar with it. So basically with Amazon Just Walk Out technology, it works like this. You walk in, you insert your payment method at the door. There's no lines, no checks, none of that. You walk through the door, or the gates after you insert your payment method. You can be debit, credit, whatever you have on you, right?
But you don't even have to do that.
No, you don't. You can also use Amazon One if you sign up for it.
Okay. And you can
have
sign
to
up at
sign
the store.
And you can sign up at the store, you can sign up at the airport, you can sign up at the T-Mobile Center. You can sign up pretty much. We have the highest density right now of Amazon One across the country.
Is that right?
Yes.
Kansas City does?
Yeah, I just found that out today.
Wow, I did not. This is another like Kansas City thing I did not know about. I knew you were what the first third-party retailer that's using that technology, but the Amazon one. So I walk in there now. I don't have to put a payment method or anything. I just hover my palm. It's kind of creepy in a way. Yeah, you hover your palm over the reader, and it knows who I am, and it already is associated with my account.
That's correct. The card that you're associated when you sign up.
Okay.
And so there's a lot more features that will hopefully be able to take that to the next level
Okay.
later throughout this product evolution cycle. But yes, it's really easy. But when you think about a network, right? When you think about how consumers are purchasing products, no matter what it is, you sign up for Amazon One once. You can go anywhere there's Amazon One and use it. If you leave your wallet at home, you're in the airport, you don't have to have time to go through your luggage to pull out your wallet. If you go to the T-Mobile Center and you leave it there, you can use it literally anywhere.
All right, just got a little creepier because I didn't even think about that until just now, which is that I know like this is now my wallet.
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna have to process that tonight. I'm gonna have to think through that a little bit. I'm still getting used to my phone can be my wallet, and I was the guy that like started that in the mobile industry. Now I'm gonna have to reconcile how this is now technology.
Yes.
So you walk in, you can either insert a payment method if you've not done it before, if you've not signed up for Amazon One, or you can use your palm. And you walk in the store, and then what's the technology enable you to do from that point in time?
It allows you to just walk around, pick up whatever you want off the shelf and leave. And yes, we know. The technology itself is looking at what you pick up and not who you are. Because there's always a little bit of what I call resistant behaviors because of the intimidation factor that you think that you're on camera. I'm not recording you. You can care less what you're doing, honestly.
Right.
All I care about is the product that you're interacting with. And the product and how you interact with it allows the back end to know exactly how to build and make that work a lot better. So when you walk in and say you want a bag of chips, the bag of chips are sitting on the shelf. The shelf is ironically weighted. It's a weighted shelf, which is how we know that you actually picked up that bag of chips.
So the shelf is all the shelving is their scales.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That is correct, and we know this, and it's not a scale that you will notice right off the bat, but it's a scale, and so that way we know that with the actual motion and the weight of that scale, we know that the cameras can capture exactly what movement you made, and then it learns types of behaviors. So if you reach into a shelf like this, or if you are that person that likes to pick it up on your knees, or if you like to be the person that likes to quietly, or if you like to read the back of it, it knows exactly what you're doing.
So it knows if I pick something up right and put it back.
Mm-hmm. As long as you put it back on a shelf, like this shelf in the store, it will not charge you.
Okay.
You can take it from one side of the store and place it on the other side of the store.
So you put it on another shelf.
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, our team gets an alert that says, hey, this product's out of place, and we have to go over there and reset it and put it back, which is beautiful, right? because I don't know how many times you walk through retail and you're looking and you're like, "Wait, that's not supposed to be
What are
there."
those Pop-Tarts doing over here with the coffee?
And then you go back to that same retailer,
Yeah.
and it's been sitting there because nobody pays attention.
Right.
We get the advantage of actually seeing that happen in real time with the technology. So it doesn't just help the consumers, right, and their experience, but it also helps our team members because it allows us to know exactly which product is available, which product's not available, and which ones are out, because we get alert notifications when we're low or out of inventory. I mean,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah. All right. So shelves are weighted, but there's other. So there's also, like I would say then the drink refrigerators and coolers. And so how does that work?
So that's a unique experience
Okay.
because that's vision only.
All right.
And the way we look at vision only is that we have to build up a profile around a particular product. Currently, we're testing produce, which has been a very expensive exercise. With our produce, since there's some refrigerated units, it has to be vision only. Well, if you have 20 potatoes in a bin, how do I know that a consumer picked up one potato?
Right.
Well, it's kind of difficult because
They're not all standard sizes and
That's
standard weights,
correct.
that kind of thing, right?
And so we have a way that we can uniquely solve that type of problem with the actual machinery behind it. So if we give you different variations of all these units, and we put one in regular size, one in a large size, and we put a bundle, we're able to actually do some cool stuff that allows us to help better recognize what that product looks like in its entirety. By doing this, it allows us also to figure out a very complicated but easy math equation on how to charge for one potato or one banana.
Yeah, and so that's something you and I talked about that I found fascinating. In today's retail experience, there's a unit price to everything, but it's probably more than it needs to be because they don't have the ability to do what you're talking about, to actually sell a single unit of a lot of things.
Yeah, it's because you walk into a traditional grocery store and experiences like this. So I just need to go buy a bundle of bananas and a box of cereal. I cannot just walk out. I can't. I most times don't go through the self-check kiosk. I always end up at the register. Well, why do I always end up at the register most of the time? Well, it's because the bananas are weighted by the pound, not an item that you actually traditionally ring up, right? Unless you can scan the little code that's really small, those bananas or oranges or apples or pears, which most people can,
Right.
because they don't ever work. Because we have that system, and the system was very finicky. It didn't work, so we had to manually weigh this stuff, which slows down your execution time. With us, we said, okay, well, if everything's weighed by the pound, then why can't we figure out a simple math equation to get you the lowest price as possible using the same formula that the pound has, right? And so we took the medium, we took the smallest unit of a product and the largest, and then we knew what the base price was. We did a little math equation, multiplied by 9 units, and a whole bunch of other formulas in between, which is in my Excel spreadsheet, because I don't even think about it anymore.
Right.
And we were able to come up with a price. And those prices keep things low. For example, depending on if cost bananas go up, but right now we can get you one banana for 19 cents.
Okay.
And you can literally walk in and grab one banana for 19 cents, or you can walk in and grab a couple of bananas for $1.19.
Yeah.
And that's the type of stuff that we're able to do with the technology that we're not able to do before. And that way we don't even have to go going to the store and buying those one to two off items that you forgot about. We have them because it's readily, it's available, it's easy.
So you've got, so the shelves are weighted, you've got the visual elements to allow you to buy certain products. You've got some things that you're testing right now to develop the machine learning, the algorithms behind produce, or maybe prepackaged, some of the prepackaged
Yes.
kind of meals, or some of those other types of things that you were talking about. The cameras, it's hard not to, like when you walk in, it's hard not to, your point about like, I feel like I'm being watched. I mean, there's just a lot of cameras that are like above, but they're not watching me and my actions. They're just observing where I'm at
That is correct.
and the movement I'm making.
Yes.
Right.
And so once we're waiting on one piece of technology, which is bidirectional gate, I think that if you see the technology from a bird's eye point of view, it changes your perspective.
Right.
And you don't think of them as cameras,
Right.
but more of as accessories that are just available.
Yeah, sensors.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right now, it is kind of in your face. It looks like it's a spaceship because you have so many
Right.
things that are going on if you look up. But if you look down, that's a different experience in itself. Because looking down at the technology and just realizing that they're just cameras or they're just sensors and there's nothing to it, right? It changes your whole perspective behind what that looks like.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be able to see this. Like I've been fortunate enough to be up in your office and to be able to look down on that. Now you told me something about that experience that is also unique. That's the only place you can get a bird's eye view of that
That's
technology.
Yes, so this is the only place right now that you'll be able to see bird's eye view of what it looks like from the top down. Because most times you're looking at it from the bottom up.
Right.
Even in other sites that we're watching, they're always from the bottom up. You'll never be able to see it, but they're also not so much in your face because it's black on black. And we'll be able to help hide a lot of that because it's black on black. Here we left it literally as is, green, silver. We wanted you to see exactly what it looked like because understanding what it looks like and actually looking at it, it becomes a part of how you shop. When we think about comfortability, especially in the urban core, how comfortable is it to go to the gas station and just pick up a gallon of milk? Especially if you have a wallet or some cash.
Right.
How many times do you get asked for money?
Right.
We all do the same thing. I mean, everybody's, unfortunately, we're all people with the same pattern.
Yep.
Nobody walks into a gas station and leaves their car unlocked.
Right.
Everybody always double checks and makes sure that it's locked 4 or 5 times, and they look around. And then there also is chances where you actually do have cash in your pocket, and then somebody may approach you and say, "Hey, can I get your spare change?" And you're like, "I don't have no spare change." You socially looking awkward down, like, why are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to not. There's nothing wrong with doing that, right? But when you think about how comfortable it is when you don't have to experience it, that's what we can offer. Because you don't have to experience that when you don't have no cash.
Right. You
Like,
don't have to take money, you don't have to take a wallet, you don't have to do any of that. So it was interesting to me, Kortney, when we were talking, and I didn't realize it when we first had the conversation until we were halfway through when you kind of dropped on me, this is not a grocery store. Because I still was thinking, I can go down there and grab lunch and come back down here, and it's a really easy experience and those kind of types of things. I can do that. I can go grab something that you guys have. But you said, no, this isn't even a grocery store, this is a test site.
Yes.
And so that was a little bit surprising to me. So this is not the prime location.
No, it's not. So in order for our team to get better in how we execute and how technology works and how we leverage technology, when we think about a test site or when we think about an environment where you can actually just do some stuff, test it out to see if it works, and if it doesn't work, you can, set it aside, try it again.
Right.
We need that because we're not going to be able to make these type of changes at a traditional site. So we do a lot of work with local vendors.
Okay.
I think we have 40 plus local vendors products somewhere in this store. Problem is this, not all local vendors have the ability to go out there and grab a UPC. They make pots, they make pans, they make cutting boards, they make something, right?
Yep.
And it's something that they crafted. It's like going to, what's the best way, a little market or an event down here, whatever, I can't remember what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like First Fridays, and somebody's got a table with their wares on it. Yeah, and they're not putting UPC codes.
That is
not
correct.
That kind of stuff there.
But those individuals get that one time to go through their inventory. Well, why do you get that one time? Well, you spend a lot of time hopping around from pop-up to pop-up because that's how you make your income. That's how you make your living.
Right.
Well, I said, okay, well, if you're going around popping to pop-up to pop-up, just trying to, make a living, well, how about we give you a space? And we'll give you this space in the store, but we'll let the technology allow us to help you sell it.
Right.
And so when we say that this is a test site, it's literally a test site, because when I think about how the next site, which is Truth and Honor, it's not a secret, so I can talk about it.
I think I saw it in print. Yes, I saw it in print.
So Truth and
It's out
Honor, it's about close to a 4,000 square foot space, and it's actually a full grocery store. It's a full retail space. It has my full product line. I cannot go in there and introduce a new vendor to that site. Well, why is that? Because everything's fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is already accounted for. All the products already been learned. Well, how do you get a new vendor's product in there? Right? It takes up to 2 weeks for our system to recognize
To learn a new product.
Yeah.
And to, okay.
And so you have to have somewhere to do that. And you have to have a location to do that. Otherwise, you'll be messing up that one. You'll be like, well, I think that works. And trust me, I don't want to lose money.
Yeah.
And
I
then
think
you're
that
gonna
word's
lose your
not a really
product.
good answer in that situation.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's fair. So the going back to the experience, sorry, you walk in, you put your phone down in the Star Trek moment, or you put your card in, you walk in, you grab whatever you want off the shelves, you grab something out of the cooler, and you just walk out.
That's correct.
And then you get a text message or an email, whatever Amazon preferences you have set up that says, here's your receipt.
Email.
An
All
email
receipts,
that says-
so you can
okay.
email.
All via email, all right?
Yeah.
And if you did sign up for Amazon one, then you put your email in when you're leaving.
Yes,
So this is where I want the receipt, that kind of thing.
that is correct.
And then you just walk out.
You just walk out, and then when you exit, you actually get emailed the receipt.
Yeah.
And that's another, because it is a test site, we make sure that we, putting price tags on things sometimes is very difficult because you're constantly changing things.
Right.
And it becomes very painful. And so that's why we rather engage you when you walk in to understand, hey, we are working on getting these price tags up, and we decide to fix this occasion. Unlike all the other locations, Crossroads is not going to be fixed in its entirety, because it's a great way to actually test what we need and how we need it. So if we say, hey, you know what, I want to be a product creator today, and you want to bring me this table,
Yep.
I'm going to try to solve this problem and figure out how to sell this table utilizing this technology.
Right.
And that's just the way that that's how we get to do it. But future, long term, we have 10 of these opening up in Kansas City. I can't tell you all the locations of all 10,
Sure.
but I can tell you the next location, and I can tell you the districts of the other ones.
Okay.
So the next location is obviously 34th and Armour,
Yep.
Truce. And then we have one that's targeted for the Northeast District,
Okay.
in the historical Northeast.
Okay.
There's one around the 3600 block of Broadway, which is it's like less than 2 miles away from 34th and Truce.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why we're strategically placing these as they are. There's a couple of them up north, and then somewhere in the central area in West Bottoms and KCK.
Now the hypothesis to this, Kortney, is this technology, this approach that you're taking to grocery stores, gives you an opportunity to serve the urban core in ways that it's not served today.
That is correct.
And that's part of the mission of what you're doing. So talk to me a little bit about what that vision for addressing food access in the urban core. Tell me a little bit about kind of how that looks.
Everything needs to be accessible and affordable. Without accessibility and affordability, those two words literally pinging together, you're not able to provide the community an experience of being able to get something at the lowest price. What ends up happening is most people who are in the urban core have a day of the weekend. It's actually Thursdays, because we just learned a few weeks ago that Thursdays is the highest grocery selling day of the week.
Okay.
Across the board.
I always try to go on Tuesdays. I always feel like the inventory's the best. Like they've stocked the shelves. I can go get the stuff that's always gone when I try to go on the weekends. So all right. So go before Thursday is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, go before Thursday, and actually go on Monday.
Monday. All right.
Yeah.
There was.
Monday is the least busiest day of the week.
Yeah, I always feel like that's because they don't have anything because everybody took it on Sunday. I'm always in there looking for things like it's out.
It started on Thursday.
All right. It's good to know.
Yes. And so when we think about what happens and how we go out and how we shop, being in an urban core as a single person, which is majority of the demographics, unfortunately, I know this data. everywhere at Target has this data. We have roughly around 60% of the people in the urban core are single. Of that demographic, the majority of them are 18 to 33, and then 55 and over.
Okay.
33 to that 54 age group, or 34 to that 54. They're usually in the suburbs.
Moved out to the burbs, right?
Half the family,
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
Makes
There's
sense.
a smaller percentage down here in the urban core, but we still also target them as well because our grocery prices aren't agnostic to if you have a large family, or sorry, it's agnostic regardless of if you have a large family or a small family. The price is going to be the same. Either you scale it up or you scale it down. They're still going to be relatively the same.
Yep.
And so when we think about access, and then we're going to hone in on access, am I able to access a banana or a pear or a jicama? I love it, but most people don't even know what it is.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and I'd be like, but you access it. Where you have to go to access it, right? Going to the grocery store should not be a full day's trip. And then you're frustrated because there are things, and we already know that you shouldn't have to. Here's the statistics of Kansas City, and this is the reason why I do a lot of stuff that I do, because unfortunately I'm a data nerd and I love results and numbers. Kansas City is the most obese city in America when it comes to childhood obesity, as of 2020. Those are facts that we cannot deny.
Yeah, that's not good.
But we deny them because we don't want to accept them.
Right.
Well, why are we the most obese city for children in America? Well, that just saying that we're the largest city in the world because nobody else suffers from obesity like we do.
I thought it was because we celebrated more Whataburgers showing up, but that could be.
But that is,
yeah.
right? It's a social moment, right? But outside of that, majority of those kids are Black and brown. And then when you look at the food deserts, and then you take in consideration other metrics and other environmental concerns that drives these numbers, right? The problem is that when we look at it, eating healthy is not cheap. It's
Right.
expensive.
Right.
But eating junk food is cheap and it's more convenient.
Right.
So how do you take those two experiences, one with access, and then make it affordable? So we made healthier eating affordable because we do all the work and you just have to eat.
Yep.
And that's where our pre-made meals come in. So you'll have multiple options within one of the community grocery stores to actually get exactly what you need. So if you want to cook and you love to cook but you don't know what to cook, you can buy all the raw ingredients for a fraction of the price because we're not selling it to you in bulk. We break everything down because we break everything down. If you want one chicken wing, you get one chicken wing. And traditionally, you can go to the grocery store for that. But the reason why you don't go to the grocery store is because you're constantly driving to the grocery store to do it.
Right.
So you rather get it all at once. If I'm going to eat 10 chicken wings, I'm going to purchase all 10 chicken wings.
Right.
Well, down here in urban core, we get to actually help guide the narrative where you can actually get that one chicken wing because it's right below you.
Right.
It's in your backyard. You don't have to worry about going and you can come back anytime because you pass the location just to get to your apartment or your house or your residence.
And you've
right?
changed the cost structure of being able to provide more locations, smaller locations that have, that higher frequency or that higher accessibility based on what you're doing.
That is correct.
And you said something else that I thought was fascinating in that, something else that was fascinating about not having to be in the store, like the employees that you have in the store, the way suppliers or the way people get like me as a producer, I get my product on the shelf. Like that's a different experience than what it would be traditionally in terms of your employees actually being responsible for doing all of that. You were talking to me about having the suppliers be responsible.
Yes, that is correct. So we have our vendor relationships and our vendors, right? They have stake in that because they want the product to sell. We welcome them in anytime. We open the gates up. They come in and long term they'll actually have their own devices they can scan in. They can walk in and place their own product on the store shelves to see their own performance. Utilizing the technology, we have analytics and the analytics behind the scenes is so beautiful. It tells us exactly how long a guest stood there in front of that product to interact with it.
Staring.
Yes, that's great numbers because I call it think time in my world. But how long does it take for somebody to think to make a decision? And then that helps us drive marketing, right? Well, what does marketing look like? If I know that this customer is standing here this long, what's on this? If you're standing there reading a label for 10 minutes, well, okay, 56% of Americans will actually stand there and read a label for 10 minutes. That's a different topic in itself.
Yeah, right. Fair enough.
But if you're reading the label for 10 minutes, then there's something about the product that they're trying to find that's not being called out.
Right.
Let's figure out what that is. And so this time when we have another customer that comes in, we're able to engage them. And then we say, okay, we noticed that you're looking at this, and we noticed that there's a common trend, but they don't know we know it's a common trend, right?
Yep.
It's a common trend. So what's in here that you're actually looking for? And then maybe we can work with the vendor to help get better labeling and better call outs so that they're not staring at it and they're able to make a decision instantly.
We used to use, so when I was running product at Sprint, our UI UX team, we had eye tracking technology. So when we would test stuff on the phone, we could actually see how the consumer's eyes were going through the experience, and we could see places where they would get hung up, in an experience, or where their eyes would go to, and so on. So, but that technology's never been available, like in retail, like to watch people go through a retail experience.
And we get to tell that story.
Yeah.
We get to see how long we get to interact with it. We get to see all the metrics behind it. We know what they're doing. We know where we can strategically play marketing material, the stuff and information that's available for us to help consumers make better decisions. If a consumer wants to walk in, the great thing about it is we actually employ more, and we employ more also because of the technology, because our team members are there to engage you. It's not a one-directional transaction. It's a two-directional transaction because one, when you get to the store, our team members are there to introduce themselves to you, make you feel like you're welcome, and then help you find what you're looking for.
Right.
Because walking into an experience is different. And also they'll be able to actually coach you into items that you may want, right? Instead of buying a 20-pound bag of sugar when it's just you by yourself, with us you can get like 1 cup of sugar.
Yeah, I'm not on the back side just waiting to transact. I'm on the front side trying to help you with the shopping experience. It makes sense. So you were telling me the future view of this location. It's a test site, test a lot of things, but you said something else that I thought was fascinating too, which was and I think this opens up a whole new set of opportunities for what you're enabling here. This idea of hyper local merchants, this idea of this being like local product, local merchants, local produce. I was instantly, I noticed when I walked in there that all of the local breweries, or several of the local breweries, have their products in there already, that kind of thing. So the idea of having this be local, like true local.
Mm-hmm. Long term, yes. So once we're done with the other sites, the goal for this particular location is actually to convert it over to all things local. Utilizing the technology, still being able to have the technology and literally say all things local. Anything that you don't have an opportunity, you want to see how to perform, because we're here to help engage the community and also help other business owners to actually be a little bit more successful running their business, at least help them understand how they can drive their narrative and their goals, because we give them the information that they need to make this decision. If you make, I don't know, sweet tea butter or something like that, and you think it's the best selling butter there is on the face of this planet, right? Well, if you bring it in there, we'll tell you if it's the best seller or not.
Yeah,
because competition is the way it works, right? And then on top of it, if you're with us here, you're also at one of the other 10 sites too. And so it also allows them to get their product not just in this location, but across all 10 stores, based off of how well they can produce and how well they can perform those items. That's the beautiful part, is that we get to have that. They get to actually live in parallel with name brands. Most times right now, you go into a grocery store and you may see something local, but you don't know if it's local or not, because it just,
and local. If you're a local producer or something, you have to find a path to a distributor to typically get in a lot of stores.
That is correct.
Just being able to